we didn't want to hold anybody back, but at the same time, he was going to be with, it's like the Briscoe in junior high school, and then going into high school. You've got to keep that level in there so that they don't feel ostracized, they don't feel out of place.
Yeah. I suppose at the age 11 or 12, the kids get a little nudgy and be thinking about, gee,
I'm too good for them.
it's time to, you know, move up or
That's right.
do something else.
It's
or
like
whatever.
the little kids in the Little League.
Yeah.
You know, they get too good, they want to go play Legion ball.
Yep.
You know, they're good for that.
Yeah. Where are some of the areas that you would go to play or perform? Where some of the places
Well,
that you
now
perform?
you take the Cardinals. Now, the Cardinals could go anywhere in the United States. They've been to Cleveland, they've been to Syracuse. They went way back in the old days, they went all the way up to White River Junction. For our fun time, we always went to Rockland, Maine for the Lobster Festival. That was the fun time. We'd get down there, sleep overnight in one of the KSC halls, or the Moose Hall, or the Grange Hall, and we'd play, put on a concert down in Camden, and we'd take the kids into Thomaston State Prison.
Both groups or just the Crusaders?
Well, it started out with the Cardinals, and then the Crusaders took it up, and the Crusaders went up. And believe me, any kid that was ever in the Cardinals or Crusaders that went into Thomaston State Prison can tell you people a lot of stories.
I'll bet. I'll bet. An eye-opener for the youngsters to go
It
up
sure
there.
was, because up there in Thomaston, the prison had no age bracket. There were kids 10 and 12 years old in prison with the rest of the guys. They were 45 and 50.
Yeah.
And they come in and they tell you, did you see that kid? Did you see that kid? I said, you're right. You're exactly right.
Yeah.
It was an eye-opener for a lot of them. And a lot of them said, boy, I ain't going to fool around.
You were telling me that there's a great difference in the fee that you would have gotten back in those days from what they get today for
A
play.
parade like the Salem Day Heritage Parade or any parade that you get here today, the fee probably would be $1,000. We would do it for 25 because we're local. But today, because of the cost of running the whole organization, now these corps, especially anybody that were down at the Tournament of Drums, and you see these corps come in, and they've got an 18-wheeler that handles all of the equipment, another 18-wheeler that handles just the props, and then 3 buses. You know it's got to cost a lot of money.
Big business.
Oh, yeah. That's why a lot of the churches do not have drum corps anymore. It's just out of sight. A lot of these drum corps, definitely, they have beanos behind them, but they have corporations. They have actual corporations that are taking care of the funds for them.
Yeah. Might mention here also that today it's become more of an ecumenical movement, the drum corps organizations.
Oh, yeah. Yes, definitely. There's no, it's not secular anymore. They're definitely wide open. And anybody that
Initially,
has watched,
they were CYO.
basically,
groups.
it starts CYO because, you know, it's church-oriented. It could be, there could be a revival. There could be a revival into some of your local high schools getting back to drum corps, because the instrumentation is not that numerous as far as a band would have, or as large as a band would have.
Yeah.
So therefore you could get away with the instrumentation being in a drum corps.
Right. Who were some of your rivals, Peter? What were the rivalries of the day?
The Cardinals, and especially if the Cardinals are listening, you know, you talk about St. Kevin's, Blessed Sack, Holy Family, the Crusaders and Holy Family Cadets were constantly going at it. A real fun rivalry, not anything bitter. You know, actually, you talk about rivalries. Yeah, we were all the drum corps were rivals against those guys out there that had purple shirts or green shirts that were the judges.
They were the enemy.
Yeah, or they were the enemy. And if you could match, and you watch that group from Boston doing their maneuvers, I can guarantee you, one of those girls in the color guard was looking for one of the judges, so that when she swung that flag, she was going to take his head off. Because, you know, you talk about kids.
Yeah.
We've got 2 or 3 kids in drum corps from Beverly who now have made it up to the judging bracket. And a guy by the name of Galvin, who's a drum judge, was at the contest on the 18th. And he said, "See my battle scar?" I said, "What happened?" He says, "She caught me. I didn't duck quick enough." And of course we have a young gentleman by the name of Peter Finari, who's also a drum judge, who's judging, who judged the Nationals in Jackson, Mississippi this year.
As we're taping this right now.
Yeah. So
late
as we're
August.
taping it,
Yeah.
he's down in Jackson, Mississippi.
Wow.
Poor fella. It's awful hot down there. But he's a judge.
Yeah.
So it's great.
Let's do another clip. This is a delightful picture here of the old St. Mary
Don't let him
school.
kid you, folks. Don't let him kid you, folks. He's looking at that car on the left-hand side.
Yeah, that's a beauty too. That really is.
That's what he's looking at. The gentleman standing next to the no parking sign over here, that's Father Mack. Again, he's reviewing the troops. You can rest assured of that.
Yeah.
The old Salem, the old convent,
Yeah.
and the school. Here again, I think it's probably the May possession from where they're coming out.
Smart group there.
Yes.
Okay, we have a Father Darcy here, I believe.
Yes, this is Father Darcy, and the trophy, as going back to what you were saying, the CYO championship. Dickie Pelletier was the drum major at the time.
Okay.
Here again, well, you don't get many of these kind of shots. The Cardinals playing inside, and I think this picture, believe it or not, was taken either at the, I want to say the arena, when they have a standstill. They go in and they just play. They don't march. And this was in the wintertime, getting ready for the finale, getting the music ready.
Okay.
The next one, of course, is a picture of Pa.
Pop, as he was affectionately
he was Pop,
known.
yeah.
Pop Nuccio.
You know, I'm serious. You talk about a man with an education that never got an education. My father was a very down-to-earth type of guy. He got his education the hard way. He was a cobbler. He came over here with 2 years of schooling. But he made me embarrassed one day. I'm sitting there watching him on the cobbler machine, and he's saying, "Go get me the paper." And I said, wait. He said, "I don't want you to learn this job. It's a dead job." He knew it before a lot of other people did.
Well,
It was a bad, bad scene. And, you know, you talk about kids today and their computers. He'd give me a list of 10 numbers. He'd say, "How much is that?" I'd say, "Pa, I don't know. I ain't started that." He says, he'd give me the answer. He was adding them as he was saying. The next picture coming up, and I'm trying to remember, but I think this was either Ipswich or it was one of the parades we did for the Jimmy Fund, I think.
okay, we have two that go together here, Peter.
Yeah. The first one, as it's coming up the street here, the fellow on the right-hand side, Doc Collins, and Bill Murch is on the left. Two of my subordinates, and the guy taking up the rear, coming up the back end is Tom Casey. 3 great guys.
Yeah.
The little guy out front with his hand raised, believe it or not, that was my son Peter.
Wow.
We had to keep it in the family, you understand, up front.
Yeah.
He's a teacher now.
Is he really?
Industrial arts.
Is he really? That's great.
See, you never know.
That's great. That's great.
This picture is the same thing, coming up the street.
Federal Street here.
Yeah. The young gentleman out front of the color guard, Tommy Arconi, he was head of the logistics. He did something at the high school. He was as a high school teacher here just recently.
Because we have to identify that handsome gent
That
with the bow
guy
tie.
on the left,
Yeah.
well, that was me. And see, folks, I just want to tell you something. Trademark. You got to have a trademark.
I think that'll do it for this clip, Pete. Yeah, great. That's great. Let's talk a little bit about the alumni as we push along here. A group that really has come along and has gotten stronger, I think, if I'm correct in saying this, over the years, Peter.
Yes. The Cardinals alumni was adopted for one reason and one reason only, to give back to the city something that we received. We thought, a tremendous education for all these kids. So now the kids themselves are starting to come back, and they wanted to keep the Tournament of Drums going for one reason and one reason only, to give back to somebody at the high school a chance to go to college. And so they're raising the funds by means of the Tournament of Drums, for alumni scholarships to a student who's playing music and at the high school. And it's worked out real wonderful, real wonderful.
This also serves as a reunion time, too, for all the old
Yes,
guard.
you see, anytime you have a drum corps contest and it's down at Herd Stadium, it's alumni time. Because all the boys and all the girls get together, and not only do they have a good time there watching the contest, but they kibitz to see who's going to win. Let's say, now he's not, no, yes, they're going to. But it's a case of, geez, I haven't seen him in 20 years. I haven't seen him in 10 years.
Yeah, these are all 40, 50, 60-year-old people now that graduated from the Corps.
Yes, and not only that, you get some of these kids now who, like I said, are giving back. We have Phil Dennison and his wife, who are now working with Father Butera, working with a color guard at St. John's. They're doing the managing part now, believe it or not.
Yep.
And Linda O'Connor and 2 or 3 of the girls that work with her are doing the drilling on the color guard.
Wow.
So it's a case of the kids now say, hey, let's do something.
Sure. Tell us about the satyrs.
Well, now see, this is, now we're getting into our area, in our area, in our age bracket. The Cardinals alumni is no different than the Boston Crusaders alumni. Well, the Boston Crusaders alumni have now formed a drum corps. And they don't do a lot of fancy maneuvering. They just come down and play music. One of the greatest feelings that the whole alumni agreed this past year at the 18th, when the satyrs came on at the end of the show and took a piece from all of the different groups, Majestic Knights, Kevin's, and the Cardinals. They played Heat Wave. It brought down the house.
Oh.
Just fantastic. 27th Lancers, I understand now, they're starting. First rehearsal they had over 200 kids.
This is another old-timer
This is
group.
another older group,
Yeah.
again, because they see the need for music.
Sure.
They see the need. Any parade you go to today, you don't find many of these type of organizations. So maybe this is a comeback for that.
And so you mentioned that some of the Beverly guys, or a few Beverly guys, are in this Spartans group?
Yes.
Out
Now,
of Nashua, New
Linda
Hampshire.
O'Connor's son, Peter, was one of the first ones that went from Beverly into the Spartans. And now I guess he's taken 4 or 5 more of the high school kids from there into the Spartans. And they travel all over the country.
Yeah.
In fact, the Spartans probably, as we speak, are down in Jackson, Mississippi, down competing at the Nationals.
Yeah. Well, we're coming up now on our second video clip, Peter, and this time we're going to watch a little bit of the performance of a group called the Patriots from Rochester, New York,
Yeah.
performing at the tournament.
They're a
of Drums.
younger group.
Okay.
A younger group, meaning they haven't been together as long.
Okay, let's give a look.
Let's give them a shot.
Pete, that was a very interesting group.
Yeah, you see, they're a little bit younger. They don't do as much fancy stuff, but at the same time, you can see the work that these kids have to do to be able to make sure their feet don't get tangled up. You know, I marvel, I really do. I marvel at the expertise of these kids today, because, you know, back in my day, it was straight, nothing fancy. Now they do dancing, they do everything, and to be able to do these different configurations and yet play the music that you hear, it's